ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. السلام على الأئمة الهدى بعد رسول الله من ذرية الأمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام على الأمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. والسلام على الحسن بن علي. والسلام على حسين بن علي. والسلام على علي بن حسين. السلام على محمد بن علي. والسلام على جعفر بن محمد. والسلام على موسى بن جعفر. السلام على علي بن موسى. والسلام على محمد بن علي. السلام على علي بن محمد. السلام على الحسن بن علي. والسلام على الحجة القائم المهدي المنتظر. صلوات الله وسلم على محمد وآل محمد. My dear brothers and sisters, I recommend to myself and you to uphold taqwa. Allah mentions in the Quran in Surah At-Talaq, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out and will provide for him from where he does not expect. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. This condition of getting sustenance from Allah, this condition to get everything solved by Allah, the requirement is to have taqwa of Allah, to fear Allah, to consider Allah in every single aspect of our life. And the reason why the Muslims, broadly speaking, have so many problems, and we can see all the problems manifest in front of our eyes, on the TV, like how Muslims are totally paralyzed, how they are quiet, how they do not know what to do. When Muslims are being starved to death, when Muslims are being persecuted in a very enclosed area, and majority of the Muslim population, the 2 billion Muslims are quiet, it is because they do not have taqwa. They do not fear Allah, they fear others, they fear the world, they fear the power, they fear money, they have other gods except for Allah. And that is what Allah says. If you have taqwa, Allah will solve your problems from sources that you cannot even imagine. And also, before what we are seeing right now, what we are witnessing right now, we have seen in the past that whenever there was burning of the Quran or something like that, when the Muslims were upset, they couldn't do anything. The problems didn't go away, again for the same reason, because we do not have, or we should say the majority of the Muslims do not have the right form of taqwa, because Allah says, if you fear me, I will put your fear in the hearts of others. When a person doesn't have anything to lose, when they seek Allah's happiness all the time, they don't care about what people think, they don't care about what Allah has given them, they don't compare themselves with others. Their only goal is to make sure that Allah is happy in every single thing that they do. Then, my dear brothers and sisters, based on taqwa, I recommend to myself and you to always prepare for death which is coming towards us every single moment, every single second. Everyone that has lived will die. Recently, yesterday, I found out a nephew of Brother Suhail passed away. He was a young boy, a young man in Pakistan. May Allah elevate his status in Jannah. But the importance is to recognize that it doesn't matter if you're old or young. If you are a youth or a baby or an old person, death is coming towards us every single moment. And that's why Allah Ta'ala reminds us about death, but also tells us stories about how Allah sent the punishment on the nations who were not expecting. One of great examples is from Surah Al-Fil, in which Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Have you not seen what Allah did to the people of the elephant? Alam yaj'al kaydahum fi taslil wa arsala alayhim ta'alan ababil tarmihim bihijaratin min sijil fa'ja'alhum ka'asfin ma'kul. Allah changed what they had planned and converted them into something that was as if it was eaten like an animal had eaten some grass and chewed it out. And if you think about the story, how it unfolded, it's bemusing, it's amazing how that happened, because it shows that when Allah wants something to happen, Allah doesn't need our help. Allah is testing us all the time, and every single thing that we do is a test, but Allah doesn't really need our help. Allah can do things on His own. And the story goes when Ethiopia, so if you think about geography, Ethiopia is in Africa, and there is Red Sea, and then you have Yemen. So from Ethiopia, the king of Ethiopia had sent two of his governors to Yemen, and they wanted to build something, a church. And then they found out that there were a place called Makkah, in which there is a stone building where people are coming all the time, and there is nothing fancy. So they decided to build this church which was made of gold, very fancy, so that people will come over there, because for them their God wasn't Allah. They were not making it for Allah. They were making it so that when more people will come, there will be more traffic, there will be more commerce, more people will recognize Ethiopia, more people will be happy with the king. They will see like the influence that they have from a cultural perspective. So he made that church, but no one was coming to that place. So he decided, he was ordered along with one of his companions, Arbat. So Abraha and Arbat, there were two companions, two governors who were ordered to go and demolish the Kaaba. Along the way, when they were going over there, they built an army which was unlike anything. They got camels, but at the same time, along with camels were very easy to find in Arabia, but they got elephants. An elephant was a unique thing for the Arabs. They had never seen an elephant. So as the army was going, according to narrations in the Tafasir, is that the two had an argument. So Abraha killed Arbat and got control of the entire army. Then he started marching alone towards Makkah. When he came to Makkah, near Makkah, he was conquering all the places. And then in that area, he took control of some of the camels. When people found out that the camels belonged to Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet, people went to Hazrat Abdul Muttalib and said, your camels have been taken and a big army is stationed outside of Makkah. Hazrat Abdul Muttalib went to Abraha and through the translator had a discussion. But the essence of the discussion was, you return my camels because we haven't actually fought. Abraha said, why are you asking me for the camels? I'm here to destroy your house. You're just asking me for camels? What about all of your business and livelihood and everything that is associated with the Kaaba? At that point, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib said, the owner of the house is someone else. He will defend the house. I am the custodian of these camels. As he took the camels, Abraha was very angry. He said, I'm going to destroy you tomorrow. As he took the camels back, and people were starting to run, because at that point they had realized that Abraha would come to attack the Kaaba, and everyone who was living in Makkah, they started running for their lives. The next morning, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib sends one of his child one by one. Like he first sent his eldest son to the Mount Abu Qais to see what is happening from the far side. So now you can see that Hazrat Abdul Muttalib was not an ordinary person. He was a wali of Allah. He was in that category because obviously he had the nur of the Prophet in his sulb. At that point, it was in the Rahim, or the Prophet was in the womb of Hazrat Amina. But Hazrat Abdul Muttalib had that level of foresight that he kept on sending his sons to the top of Mount Abu Qubais. And he says, look what you see from the mountain. Look towards the ocean and see if there's some help coming. One son goes, comes back and says, Father, if you tell me to believe, I can, but I do not see anything. The second son goes, comes back, says the same thing. The third son goes, comes back. And by the way, if you think about the sons, in that son, among those sons were Hazrat Abbas, Hazrat Abu Talib, Hamza, Abu Lahab, all of them are brothers. So lastly, when Hazrat Abdul Muttalib sends his last son, he was the youngest son, Hazrat Abdullah. He says, "Father, if you believe me, I see a cloud coming. But I don't know if it is a cloud or not. It goes up and down, up and down." And as they came near, they were these tiny birds with three pebbles, two in the claws, one in the mouth. And then they circumambulated around the Kaaba and went to the army of Abraha, destroyed the army with those pebbles. The important point through this is we have limited time in this life. Death is coming towards us. Allah does not need our help. Allah can defend His religion, defend His sacred places, defend every single thing on His own. And even if the entire world, every single thing disobeys Allah, it doesn't change the might of Allah. It doesn't change anything in His qudrat. What we have to do in this limited time is to make sure that we are making an effort for His cause, and that is the source of our salvation, and not be deceived by the ornaments, the attractions, the temptations of this world. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, I recommend to myself and you to not be deceived by the attractions, the temptations, the deceptions of this world. The world is designed to be a test. It is like when you are in a school and there are options which are wrong. Like if, let's say, there's an MCQ, multiple choice question, you have 3 options or 4 options, 3 of them are wrong, 1 of them is correct. This is the life. The life is supposed to be wrong. Many of the options are wrong. It is again a choice upon us whether we choose the right option or the wrong option. If we choose the right option, it will have consequences, it will have benefits for us. If we choose the wrong option, it will again have consequences, damages that we will entail in our life. And it applies to every single person, whether you're young or old. Every single decision that you make in this life, it has consequences that you will see in this life. So make sure that you consider Allah in every single aspect. Just to repeat myself, bringing everything together, we can protect ourselves against the deception of this world by having taqwa, by considering Allah in every single thing that we do. And we have taqwa, we can have taqwa if we remember that there is a time, whether next minute, next hour, next few days, death will come to us. We will be in that grave which is this long and this wide, and all of us will be lying over there if we are lucky, or we might not have a body when we die. The point is, we all will experience death, to prepare for that time. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Dear brothers, since we are in the month of Rabiul Awwal, the month in which the Prophet was born, but also the month in which the Prophet migrated to Medina, I wanted to highlight a few aspects about the community that the Prophet set up in Medina, because that community was very unique. If you think about when the Prophet migrated, he migrated in the early days of Rabiul Awwal. On the 27th of Rabiul Awwal is the date when Imam Ali alayhi salam and Sayyidah Fatima Zahra joined the Prophet and they entered Medina. So the Prophet migrated several days earlier. So what happened between early Rabiul Awwal and end of Rabiul Awwal is this. First of all, we all know the event of the night of the migration, when Imam Ali alayhi salam slept in the bed of the Prophet. After that, the Prophet stayed in the cave Sawr for 2 to 3 days. The cave in which the companion was complaining, the companion was crying, and the Prophet was saying, "Do not be afraid, Allah will protect us." After that, the Prophet had left Imam Ali alayhi salam in Makkah for certain reasons. One was to return all the amanat, the responsibilities that the Prophet had, and also to complete all of his affairs that were remaining in Makkah, and then to bring all the women to Medina. So the Prophet did not enter Medina after traveling for 8 days, 3 days in Sawr, 8 days in a place named Kaaba, where he built the mosque named Quba. So when you go to for Umrah, inshallah, there is this mosque named Masjid al-Quba. That is the first mosque in Islam which is outside Medina. Before entering the Medina, Prophet built that mosque. As that mosque was being built, Prophet used to watch on the road, where is Ali? Where is Ali? Where is Fatima? Because the family hadn't come. The Prophet was worried for them. And when Imam Ali salam was coming back from Makkah, he did not take the route that the Prophet had taken. He took the main route. And the kuffar, when they realized that the Prophet had left and Imam Ali was taking the women, they attacked Imam Ali salam and said, "You give back the women." Imam Ali salam, at that point, when he was very young, he took the women from the main road as a source of his bravery, as a testament of his bravery, and he encountered these kuffar and still managed to defeat them and took the women to Medina. So when the Prophet entered Medina on the 27th of Rabiul Awwal, that will be tomorrow, it was an amazing time. It was like things had totally changed. And this is really interesting also, and an interesting story, that 2 years ago when we came to this place for the first time, that is Zainab, it was also the 27th of Rabiul Awwal. So it's been 2 years according to Islamic calendar in this place. So when that happened, the Prophet came to a city which was very diluted. There were a lot of conflicts. There were different types of people over there. There were Jewish people, and we talked about why Jews were there before. They were waiting for the Prophet according to their own narrations. And there were Aus and Khazraj, the Kuffar. There were other people who were in there, and they used to continuously infight. They were not a cohesive framework. They were not a cohesive community. So within a period of 8 years, from the time of migration till the conquest of Makkah, and in the second year it was the Battle of Badr. In the Battle of Badr, there were 330 Muslims, helpless Muslims, some of them with sticks, not even full, all of them having swords or horses. From that time to entering Makkah as conquerors with 20,000, 30,000 people in 7 years, what did the Prophet do? How was the Prophet able to change this diverse community, these small group of people, into something that was totally unimaginable? And this is an important point when we think about this, especially in the context of the times that we're living in, that we need to understand that if we have the right niyyah and we continue to work hard with the right niyyah, Allah will bless us. Allah will bless things that we cannot even imagine. But if the niyyah is not right, then whatever training is there, whatever framework has been defined, it will be lost. For example, when the niyyah was right, the Prophet within 1 year was able to defeat the kuffar. And in the Battle of Badr, because of that, people started noticing this state, this Islamic state, this small city is becoming something which is worth noticing. But before that, they were ignoring. They were like, oh, who are these people? They just migrated. What are they going to do? So, and then within 8 to 10 years, the Prophet changed the complexion of the place. But when the niyyah changed, when the people started thinking differently, when they ignored the order of the Prophet, when they did not give the right of Imam Ali alayhi salam rightfully that was his, even though the framework that the Prophet had laid, it worked and Muslims were successful materialistically, but even according to the 90% of Muslims, they say that after the first 4 Khilafats and the 6 months of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, the period of Rashidun has ended. The good period has ended. And then there was a lot of Mulukiyat and Badshahat and kingship, not the period of righteousness. Which means that the niyyah is very important. If we have the right niyyah, then we can truly transform things in a very short period of time. Not ourselves, but Allah's help will come. The second thing I want to say, what I'm going to lay out are some of the insights that I've gathered from the Quran and from how the Prophet laid the foundation of the community. This doesn't mean that we should not be prepared for tomorrow, that either we might die tomorrow or next year the Imam might come. If the Imam comes, one could argue, and this is an interesting dynamic within the Shia community, that when the Imam will come, everything will be fine, we don't have to think about anything. It is our responsibility that we need to think about future while preparing for the Imam. Because when the Imam comes, things will be different. But we do not know when the Imam will come. It is our responsibility to make sure that we are sowing the seed and we are making the effort, because our result and our judgment and our reward is based on the effort, not on the actual results, which will come after a long period of time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And a beautiful example in that regard for young people is when you sow a seed of a tree, like a mango tree. It doesn't bloom for a long time, but then even after you're dead, people will keep on getting benefits from the shade of the tree, from the fruits, from future trees. So you will always be rewarded. So Allah Ta'ala mentions some of the foundations on which this society was formed. One is unity and brotherhood. This was a key component. Without unity, without feeling that you are connected to the other person as a brother, this is not possible. Allah Ta'ala says in Quran chapter 49 that the believers are but brothers, so make peace between your brothers. So it is a responsibility among us. If we see some discord or differences and something that is going up, you have to make sure that you step in and try to remove that difference. Because Allah Ta'ala mentions in the Quran, hold fast to the rope of Allah, all together and be divided. Because Shaitan wants people to be divided. Shaitan wants Mu'mineen to be divided. Shaitan wants people to be alone, not have a support system. And Allah Ta'ala praises Ansar in the Quran. Allah Ta'ala says, they love those who immigrated to them, give preference over themselves even in need. This shows that what Ansar did at the very beginning, this was appreciated by Allah. So as the Prophet entered Medina, what did Prophet do? One of the first things that he did was he made brotherhood between the Muhajirin and the Ansar. He took one Muhajir and one Ansar and said, you are brothers. Now you take half of your property and share it with your brother. Everything was done in half. The Ansar who were in Medina, they gave half to their brothers, to the Muhajirin who had left everything for the cause of Allah and came empty-handed to the city of Medina. Think about how many people have come, and this is an important point for people to recognize, especially those who have migrated from other places. Not talking about those who have come with support of family and others. I'm talking about people who came alone. As students, as family, they had nothing. They had left everything back home. And then if there is someone who helped them at that time, you always remember, like, that was the person who helped me when I had no one. And this was the situation of the Muhajirin who had left everything in Makkah and came to Medina, and then Ansar helped. So the first one is unity and brotherhood. We need to make sure that we have that. The second one is mutual support and cooperation. Allah Ta'ala says, help one another in righteousness and piety, not in sin and aggression. So always do amar bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar and help each other. If you see that someone has said something good and the other person is saying, no, you haven't done good, highlight, no, this was right, what you've done is right. You have to be supportive of each other in kindness, in good deeds. And also, if someone says that what is happening is wrong, it's your responsibility to highlight if you think it is wrong, to support them in that aspect. And then Allah Ta'ala mentions that men and women, especially Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, are guardians of each other, are wali of each other. They are responsible for each other. So it is our responsibility to make that happen. And then the third one is to have justice and economic equity. This is again, a system cannot flourish without justice. And that's why when the Prophet established his society, his community, he laid certain rules. He said, this is the constitution of Medina. And within the constitution of Medina, he said, one Muslims and Jews are part of one community. They're not different. They have to be treated similarly. They are responsible for collective defense, mutual justice, and no leaving anyone behind. We will not let anyone be poor. We all are one community. The freedom of religion was given to all the religions who were there. Disputes were referred to the Prophet and Allah. This is a very important point, considering that how we try to solve the problems ourselves. Oftentimes, it is important to identify that this person is a senior, or this person has the status of like he's a religious scholar, or he knows what he's talking about. Identify that person and then go to them with bigger disputes. Because oftentimes when people are arguing among themselves, they're not able to solve. That's why in the constitution, the Prophet said, when there is dispute, come to me, come to Allah, and I will make a decision. And that decision will be final. And that's why the center of Medina was the mosque of the Prophet. It was not a castle, it was not a big court, it was the mosque in which the Prophet used to sit humbly. They were praying, they were giving, the Prophet was giving the message of the religion, but also addressing the conflicts that were happening, the issues that were happening in the society. Another thing that the Prophet did, which was very important, was he established economic justice. What does that mean? It means that in Medina, there was a market which was controlled by certain monopolies. You see the monopolies over here, right? You see some lobbies controlling certain aspect of the economy, and you cannot enter that. It's just like they will not, it's technically you can, but you will never get any support, and you will be sidelined from that market. The Prophet established a free public market. He ended the monopoly. He allowed anyone who wanted to sell something to be part of the market, he allowed them. At the same time, he made sure that there is Baitul Mal, treasury for the poor, and the Ashab al-Safa. Those people who do not have anything, they were given from Baitul Mal. They were given, they were supported, so that no one felt like if I do not do this, if I am not subservient to the powerful, I will not have any money. The Prophet said, I will provide. Everyone should be independent, because once you are independent, you think, you help others. And then the Prophet always highlighted equality. As in the Quran, Allah says, the difference is only based on taqwa. The Prophet established equality in every single thing, that all Muslims, whether black or white, Arab or non-Arab, they are all equal. They have to be treated equally. And during this, as he was doing, he also established the responsibility of men towards women, because before that, women had no rights. Women were not given any rights in the end of life distribution or anything. They were just treated like animals. They had no rights in the community. The Prophet gave rights to women in the community. And then, above all, it was his view that a community cannot continue without leadership. And that's why he continuously appointed Imam Ali alayhi salam from day one as his successor, so that to show that until unless you choose a leader who is sincere, who is knowledgeable, and the existing leader appoints the following leader, the community cannot continue. Yes, there has to be shura, there has to be discussions, all of these things. But the leadership has to be with piety, with knowledge, with strength. not based on someone, what people come and agree to and say, oh, because this person will reward me, that will be my leader. And the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam kept continuing all these things in the letters that they kept on writing. For example, Imam Ali alayhi salam, if you read the letter to Malik Ashtar, he says, rule with mercy. People are either your brothers in religion or your equals in humanity. He's kept on saying to Malik Ashtar, even if it were my own wealth, I would redistribute equally. How much more when it is Allah's wealth? So think about this. Everyone who's custodian, they have been given wealth, responsibility by Allah. And Imam is saying, if it is my wealth, I will distribute equally among all the Muslims. Then if it is the responsibility of the entire community, why would you give someone more versus others? Why would you create these loopholes for the rich? Why would you create these things that benefit those who do not need to be benefited? And that's the thing